Bristol. Daniel L. Davis joins us, former Lieutenant Colonel in the United States Army, now a senior fellow and military expert at the US think tank Defence Priorities, also host of the Daniel Davis Deep Dive on YouTube. Daniel, great to have you back with us tonight. Thanks for coming on. Let's start with Ukraine. That's the topic that seems to be sort of igniting strongest opinions tonight. What do you make of Donald Trump's announcement yesterday that he will be trying to bring this war to a close as quickly as possible? Evening.
Well, it's nothing but a continuation of everything he's been saying since 2023 when he first started running for president, all throughout the campaign and ever since he's been elected, that's exactly what he's going to do. And now he's just putting actions behind his words. And he sent his Secretary of Defense over, who has made some very forceful and very, very different comments than anybody else from the United States has made since, going back to the Biden administration. And one of the things I think in a press conference just a few hours ago that Secretary Hegseth said, which I think is very telling, is he said that President Trump is sharply focused on hard-powered balance of power and on the realities on the ground about what is and what isn't possible. And I think that he has concluded, as certainly I have really from the outset of this war, that it is unwinnable for the Ukraine side, and to continue on struggling is a futile situation that only is going to get more Ukrainians killed but won't change the outcome. And it seems to me that he's come to that conclusion and is now taken action as a result.
I think there was perhaps an expectation that he would quite quickly try to get Zelensky and Putin together and initiate some sort of peace talks between the warring parties. Were you surprised, Daniel, that he's not doing that? He's negotiating himself bilaterally with Putin.
No, I'm not. I'm not surprised at all. I mean, the idea that he was going to get this over, in a day or even before he came into office, I think was always just, common.
Sure,
Trump,
but excluding the democratically elected president of the country that he might be about to potentially sign an agreement on behalf of. Is that the right way of going
according to
about
what's been said, there's been lots of comments and lots of communication between the United States and Ukraine. So it's not like maybe Trump himself hasn't. I think I only had the one short phone call with him, but there's been plenty of people from the United States talking to Ukraine.
But isn't the point, how can the United States negotiate an end to a war that it's not directly part of?
Well, the war doesn't exist without the United States. That's just a fact. And I think that if it's going to end, it's also going to be because the United States is going to bring it that way. And look, I mean, it truly is about the hard division of balance of power between the two sides. Ukraine cannot fight this war on their own. Zelensky himself has said that repeatedly. Now he's looking for Ukraine to get security guarantees from the United States and from the European Union. And look, I think that we just got to be honest. If Trump doesn't think that Zelensky is going to be willing to make the hard decisions that he needs to, then he's going to bypass him. And look, Zelensky has been saying things like he wants nuclear weapons, like he wants NATO membership, and he's not going to get those things. And to continue talking about them doesn't give credibility to him being a good negotiating partner. I think we got to admit that's part of probably what's behind Trump's move.
Let's just talk more broadly about sort of security guarantees and so on. This suggestion, this warning from Pete Hegseth yesterday that that Europe should no longer rely on the US for security. Is it in the US's interest, do you think, long-term, Daniel, to sort of step back from its role on the world stage in the way that it seems Donald Trump wants to?
Well, I hear a lot of people characterize it. I've seen headlines like you just said there. That's not what Hegseth said. And he reiterated today, he is not saying that the United States, that the Europeans should not rely on the United States. What he said was that the United States should be basically the backstop and that Europe should step up more. And he emphatically said twice today, actually, that he wants a strong NATO alliance and that he wants the United States to be a part of it. But he said the Europe is going to have to step up its contributions to that. That's what he said.
Which is, a lot of people might say, is fair enough.
Well, yeah, I mean, some people in the United States are saying that's fair enough. Others, of course, have, wanted to let the United States continue to take the lead in that. But Trump and many of the folks on his team now are very much opposed to that, saying it's appropriate now that the countries that are capable of providing for their own security should do so. And Hegseth, in his commentary just this afternoon, reiterated Article 3 of the NATO treaty, which said every nation should provide for its own national security. And
sure.
He argued that should be somewhere around 5%, not even 2%. But I think he's sending a clear signal from the president that, the days of where it's been in the past where the U.S. is going to take the lead all these places is frankly coming to an end.
But we've had the implementation of tariffs on close allies of the U.S. like Canada and Mexico. We've had these warnings about sort of stepping back from the security guarantees in Europe. Do you not worry that America could quite quickly find itself quite short of allies, given that perhaps there's a feeling that it's no longer a reliable ally to countries like ours?
Well, it depends on reliable to do what. If people want the reliability to mean the same thing that has been going on for the last couple of decades, then no, that's not going to be a safe bet. But in terms of, and Hegseth was asked that question actually at the press conference today, and he said, no, we will honor Article 5 guarantees, but he said it needs to be clear that the bulk of the security needs to be provided more by the people who are actually in Europe on the continent. And so he's saying a reordering of things is appropriate and necessary, not that he's going to disengage, not that Trump is going to get out of NATO, or that he's not going to honor Article 5, but that he said it's time for a big change fundamentally. And a lot of people don't like that.
So just to sum up, you think what he's doing so far at least makes a fair amount of sense?
I do. I think it's very rational and logical. There shouldn't be the expectation that the United States literally forever would always be the front line of NATO security when other nations are able to do that. In the beginning, especially in the 40s and during the Cold War when NATO first started, it did make sense for the United States to take a lead, and I think it was appropriate for our own security as well as Europe's. Those days are no longer on us, and now it's a different set of dynamics, and we need a different set of dynamics also between the alliance.
Really interesting. Thank you very much for your time, sir. Daniel L. Davis, former Lieutenant Colonel in the United States Army.